All right, hello everybody, and welcome back to the weekly watch list video brought to you by DFew. As always, I'll walk through my focus list for this upcoming trading week and discuss the setups that I'm watching and how I would manage risk in all of them. First things first, a few things about the overall market health. I did my full stock market outlook video yesterday, but still we're kind of pretty negative here. Potentially if this holds, we'd start to develop a potential uptrend. But as of right now, just short-term rally back into a gap area, declining 21 EMA area. And until we really form out here, pop above that 21 EMA, the overall market isn't in the best shape. And in general, just situational awareness wise, there weren't that many setups out there for this week. But I brought kind of the best that I see out there. So hopefully you guys find this helpful. If you do, please go ahead and leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel, and definitely go ahead and comment below your favorite setup from this list and any other names that you're watching. All right, so now that you've left a like down below, let's go ahead and keep on moving. Let's go ahead and run through the 11 names that I'm watching. So Airbnb, I like where it's at in the overall structure, moving out the right-hand side from its IPO. And we're forming out a base here. Now we do have some flaws in here. We have this gap down, which was filled, and we're up against those declining moving averages. What I would love to see is for it to tighten here, hold, build out a range right near the moving averages, and then pop above that on a pickup in volume. I'd love to see RMV, which is relative volatility, pop back down here below 5, below 10 as that happens. And then that would basically set up a potential entry point. A lot of that is market dependent. Do we fall through to the downside? We'll have to see. But if it can hold here, that's a constructive sign for not only the stock, but the overall market as well. Just another general point, I saw a lot of potential bear flags that could resolve to the downside next week. Just bringing up NVIDIA as an example. If these manage to hold and they don't break down, that's a sign that the sellers are getting a little bit tired and we could start a new uptrend. But as of right now, we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. Moving on, we've got AKAM. And if you hover over here in DFew, you can see a little bit about each industry. And overall, this is pretty tight over here. It was a little bit tighter in this area, as you can see from RMV. But we're still in a nice range here. You've got pivots through 107. But we'll have to see what happens with the overall market. But in a nice overall uptrend above the rising moving averages, definitely showing a lot of relative strength versus many different stocks. And let's open up the numbers here. Decent growth here. Nothing crazy to really focus on there. Going back to Airbnb, guidance has been increased, so that's a good sign. And you've got some nice surprise numbers, the latest earnings reports. Moving on, we've got AMGN. Overall, pharma has been holding up pretty well. Biopharma. This is a bigger cap name in here. If we open this up, you can see 143 billion. Let's close that back up. Pretty tight up here above a rising 21 EMA, and honestly looks like a pretty darn good setup. A little bit of downside reversal action here on a pickup in volume, but it held this range. Inside day on Friday when a lot of stocks were breaking down and closing near lows. So it's acting pretty darn well here. RMV declining as well. Costco, I noticed a trend here with GRPN, Groupon, as well as Ollie's Bargain Outlet. It seems like these type of names, this theme is acting pretty strong. You can see a big upside reversal after earnings here. Let's see if there was a surprise. So not much of a surprise here, but positive market reaction on a pickup in volume. And now it's kind of setting up near the top of this base. I'd love to see a little bit more tightening of this range. You can see RMV is coming down. I'd love to see, 1-2 more days in here within this range, and then set up a nice pivot for a potential breakout here higher within the context of an overall uptrend above a rising 200-day moving average. CrowdStrike, this is also a theme I'm watching. The cybersecurity names acting pretty well, especially late last week. But like a lot of stocks on this past Friday, a very poor close after a rally of 2-3 days. So I'd love to see it basically pull back, wait around a few days, let that 21 EMA catch up to price, tighten up overall, see that RMV come down as well as ideally volume come down on any pullback. And that would be very constructive. But we'll have to see what happens. I like where this is at, right at its kind of first key base after the downtrend has ended. Duolingo actually tried to break out on this Friday. Again, a sign of strength for me. but we had a pretty poor close given the overall market conditions. So I'd like to see it firm out here, form a range against this base pivot, and then look to set up another move higher if the market is cooperative. Moving on, we've got ESTC, another name that's been showing nice relative strength, nice action on Friday. I'd like to see it just kind of tighten a few more days and then look to break out and continue this move. I always focus on names that have gapped up like this on volume, and this basically, given that it's held up this well, given the overall market conditions, is pretty darn exceptional. MOD, the overall group doesn't give too much to be excited about. Industrial machinery, but overall it's acted really well, super strong off these lows, up over 120% here, forming out this base, and I'm basically looking for a little bit more tightening and then a breakout through some pivots. You do have a pivot around 46.41, which it broke out and failed on Friday. But I'm watching for it to tighten just maybe one more day, 2 more days, and this could be pretty primed. Overall, looking at the fundamentals, let's scroll down to the present here. Decent estimates here and really nice surprise numbers in terms of EPS last quarter. So the fundamentals look pretty good on this name. RIVN, this is kind of my favorite story here. Obviously, they're in the EV space. Really strong off the bottom here, a little bit short-term extended, but I'd love to see 1-2 more days forming out a range here at least. Maybe we get a shakeout below the moving averages and a strong close. Then an attempt at this pivot right near 24.55 on volume. You can see it actually tightened up pretty nicely on this single day, very short term with the RMB, and then popped above it on Friday with a decent close when a lot of stocks didn't hold up well. So I like this initial power. It's basically been basing since then, kind of a pseudo double bottom here with a pivot right near 24.55. Uber also strong. This is kind of the first base. This is kind of the second base here. It broke through this range here on Thursday, pulled back into the moving averages on this Friday. I'm watching basically for another range to form, RMV to come down, and then set up a nice pivot, cheat entry up the right-hand side of the space. Lastly, we've got MBLY, which going over to, let's go to a weekly chart. You can see had its IPO move, and it's basically been consolidating since February of 2023. And the 200-day moving average just showed up here. It's starting to form up here. Good relative strength versus the market during this period, and it's above the anchored VWAP from its IPO. So I'm basically watching for some type of tightening action. It's a little bit whippy in here. I'd love to see it calm down a little bit, ranges to really contract, and then see what happens from here. But this is also kind of involved in the EV space in terms of the visual systems that these cars use. So definitely a theme to be aware of. So that's pretty much it when it comes to my overall watch list. I'll have the link to my wide list down below as well. Just 60 stocks or just under 60 stocks this week. Usually it's 80, 90. So significantly less than usual, but we'll have to see what happens. Going back to the overall market for just a second, we'll have to see whether this rally into the declining moving averages fails, or if it holds or shakes out and stays strong for a week. On the bullish side, if it manages to form out a range here and then pop through the 21 EMA, that's basically what we're looking for. But if we do fall through to the downside on volume, and we see the setups that we just talked about break down, break moving averages, we can see continued distribution from the leaders, that would be the negative side. So remain open to whatever happens, listen to price action, and let it pull you in if it's going to, and we'll have to see what happens. A few of these names that I talked through on my focus list could use a few more days to kind of form out short-term entry tactics that you can use to position with size while managing risk. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you're staying up until this point, make sure to leave a like on this video and let me know what's your favorite setup from this list down below in the comment section. I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking. And if there's a name that you think should be on my radar that's not already on this list, let me know down below as well. But thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in future videos. Take care.